your pictures on your
you.
release day with the umbrella, which I thought was perfect.
Aw,
I
thank
didn't think
you.
of it as a coronavirus project. I figured that you were just really thinking ahead about how
Hey,
to market your book. I thought it was brilliant.
thank you. I loved your train video. That
Oh,
was
thank you.
so cool.
That was really fun to make. My
Oh,
son helped
yeah,
me with
that's
that.
really cute. So was that his brainchild or was it yours?
It was a little bit of all of us. My husband, that's his train, that's his project, is to have that train outside. And my son wants to be a filmmaker. So I just said, hey guys, let's get the train out. Help me make a film to promote the video. It was really fun.
That's
I
great.
love it.
We
Turned
just
out
did it in
nice.
an afternoon.
Yeah, mine are always like my oldest, she's 10 and she's like little Miss TikTok. She's like, how about we do this? Why don't you do this? She's always got marketing schemes for me. So, but a lot of them I don't do. But a lot of them I come up with them, then I make her do. All right. Hi, everybody. Okay, so I'm going to start. My name is Shannon De Les Key. I am the author of Mary Underwater. It came out in April, which feels like 25 years ago. But we are here to celebrate these 4 May debuts. We've got Josh, Celesta, Cheryl, and Kristiana. And we've got a whole bunch of different genres within middle grade. We've got sneezing storm cloud bringers, we have broken tractors, we have witches, we have elephants, we've got everything. I'm going to let them introduce themselves in alphabetical order. We know we're going to do this. And then I'm going to go over some of the rules right now. But so as you know, you can chat, but I see everything. So don't say anything, inappropriate to each other because I'll see it at the end. Be polite. You can use it to ask questions. You can comment. At the end, we're going to do some giveaways for books based on the answers that everybody gives. And you'll be using that to give us the answers. And then me later, you'll give your address so that we can get those books to you. I'm so excited to be here. You guys want to start describing yourselves in your books for us? Celesta? Oh no! You muted yourself.
You're muted, Celesta.
Okay, there you go. Oh gosh. Okay.
I'm sorry. So, hi, I can speak now. I'm Celesta Rimington, author of The Elephant's Girl. And I guess a little bit about myself. I grew up all over the country. I grew up in a family that moved all over. I went to 6 or 7 different elementary schools in several different states. And so what I like to write about are some of the places I've lived and places I've been and what makes those places unique. And I wanted to become an author when I was in 4th grade, and an author came and visited our school. And he signed a book to me, and I was just so inspired. And I had some really amazing teachers who were supportive and mentored me. And then, but I didn't really take off with it until I was an adult. And I've been writing for publication or hoping to be published for the last 10 years at least. And this has been a long road, but I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to have a book out. I have a degree in sociology from Brigham Young University, and I also graduated from the Institute of Children's Literature. And I'm a member of the SCBWI. And I have 2 kids, and we live in the Rocky Mountains where we have a miniature railroad with a rideable steam train.
So cool. And tell us a little bit about The Elephant Girl.
The Elephant's Girl is, I have it here. It's a story about a girl who is mysteriously found in the elephant enclosure in a Nebraska zoo following a huge tornado. And the African elephant rescued her and protected her during the storm. No one knows who she is. She can't remember who she is. So she ends up growing up in the zoo with her foster father, who is the zoo's train engineer. And her best friend is the zookeeper's son, Fisher. And one day when they are helping out with the elephant training, the girl, her name is Lexington, she discovers that she can mysteriously see the memories of the elephant. It can communicate with her telepathically. And that sends her on an adventure with her friend Fisher. They have this grand summer adventure where they go on a treasure hunt. They meet a ghost. And in the process, she discovers some mysteries about who she is.
So cool. Awesome. I love it. Cheryl, tell us about you and your book.
Well, I'm Cheryl Sherman, and my book is A Boy Called Preacher. It's about a 12-year-old boy who never expected to be man of the farm at the age of 12. Takes place in 1943, so it's historical fiction at the height of World War II. And it's about how he learns to step up and become a farmer and care for the family and take care of the farm. And he learns many lessons along the way.
Very cool. And it's based on a relative of yours?
It is. It's loosely based on my dad's childhood story. I love to take important bits of family history and create fiction.
Love
And
it.
so that's what I did. And there are some stories in here that my dad told me. The majority of it is fiction.
Very cool. I love it.
So, yeah.
Josh?
And I'm a long-time educator, reading specialist, and literacy consultant, and four-boy mom, and Grammy to 13.
That's
Wow.
awesome. Wow. And have they
Yeah.
read your book?
Yes, they have.
They have. Oh, that's so wonderful. Very cool. Josh?
Hi, I'm Josh Roberts. I'm the author of The Witches of Willow Cove, which is here. And I am a lifelong New England resident. And I grew up on the North Shore, just a couple towns over from Salem, and have always sort of been interested in the local lore, which is what, when I was starting to think about what I would write about for a book, that just kind of came naturally. And yeah, I am a father of two. I'm a travel journalist, and I was saying before that I probably wrote this book 3 different times. And the first draft was 150,000 words, and it got shorter and shorter with each version until I always joked that people seem to like it the less that I had of it. So I don't know. But yeah, this has been a real journey to get this book to publication, and I'm so excited to have found a publisher that was enthusiastic about it. And the story is about, it has a large cast of characters, but there's 2 main characters, both, one's a 13-year-old girl named Abby, and the other is her best friend named Robbie, and they're dual perspective main characters, and they solve mysteries and have adventures and kind of discover a secret that's been lurking in their town since the time of the Salem witch trials.
Very cool. And your illustrations are beautiful. I love them.
Yeah,
I
they
love
are.
how you've shared those. Very cool. And Kristiana?
Well, I am Kristiana Sfirlea. I am the author of Legend of the Storm Sneezer, and I was homeschooled. So I loved growing up homeschooled because my mom kind of just let my imagination run wild. So obviously that turned into me turning into an adult who wrote a book about a girl who sneezes a magical storm cloud. So,
Naturally, yes.
So Legend of the Storm Sneezer is the story of a 13-year-old girl named Rose Schuyler who sneezes a magical storm cloud at birth, and it's followed her around ever since. But when Stormy causes one too many public disasters, Rose is taken to an asylum for unstable magic in a haunted forest that is mysteriously turned to stone. And then she has lots and lots of adventures from there on out. So
So cool. All right, that's awesome. So you kind of just touched on your main character. Do you want to tell us, and this is going to go for everybody, do you want to tell us a little bit about your main character and how you are similar to them and how you're different from them?
absolutely. Are we doing in order again?
I'm going with you first. You're up.
Awesome. All right then. So me and Rose definitely have the same sense of humor, which I absolutely love. She's completely hysterical, and I love writing her just because it makes me laugh so much. I would say that I would like to be like her. I wish I was more similar to her because she's just very compassionate. She's very resilient, and she just has this like joy about life that just makes her awesome. So I would love to be more like her.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. Cheryl, how about you? Similar to your dad?
Well, I am. And in this book, Preacher, he really is persistent. And when he starts a project, he sticks to it and wants to get it finished. And I'm the same way. I don't always succeed, but that's my goal. So I'd say persistence.
Nice. And can you tell us about his name a little bit? His name is Preacher.
It's a nickname, just a
Okay.
nickname. And it was given to him by his dad because he was quite a talker when he was a young boy. So
So
he would
my
let the
dad
people
is,
have it,
yeah.
get on the soapbox and let them have it. And so he
I-
called him Preacher.
So are
Yeah.
you like that at all?
Now that's an interesting question. I guess in a way I am. I raised 4 boys. I
So
had
you
to talk
had
a lot.
You had to. Okay, I love that. All right. Josh, how about you?
Yeah, so I have 2 main characters, and I think in all of my characters you'll find bits and pieces of me, both the good and the bad. So Abby is probably the main character, and she's bold and adventurous and opinionated, and also kind of reckless. And so I think I have a lot of those qualities as well. And then the other main character, Robbie, is a super dork. He's into Star Wars and comic books and all of the things that I loved when I was a kid and still love. And so he's sort of the other balancing half. And he's brave and he's extremely loyal. And I aspire to the qualities that my characters have.
That's awesome. How about you, Celesta?
Well, for me, my main character is Lexington Willow, the girl who was found with the elephant in the after the tornado. And I think that one of the ways I'm a lot like her is her love of animals, particularly wild animals and elephants. I have a very special spot in my heart for elephants and loved being able to research them for this book. Another way that I think I'm like her is that she spends much of the book wondering about herself, who she is and where she came from, because she doesn't remember her family. And I lost a parent when I was young who I don't remember. And so I spent a lot of my childhood wondering those same things. I knew where I belonged, but I also wondered what I wasn't remembering about myself and about where I came from. So in those ways, I'm like her. But I would say I'm very different from her in the fact that she grows up in a zoo, obviously, but the fact that she never really wants to leave the zoo. She stays there and it's her comfort place and she never goes anywhere else. And it becomes part of her character journey to learn to leave. But I grew up all over the place. So I never got to stay in one place very long. So that's very different. And the other main character, Fisher, her best friend, who's the zookeeper's son, the ways I feel I'm like him is he's a very loyal friend and he's very supportive of the people he cares about. And I think that kind of, I don't know, I think I got a little bit of that from the way I am with my kids and my family.
Oh, that's beautiful. You guys are giving me all these like middle grade feelings, and that segues into my next question. Why middle grade? What do you like about middle grade? Cheryl, you want to start for us?
I will. Reading middle grade is a real milestone for many, many readers. That when I was teaching, that was the time that I just wanted all of my students to feel themselves as readers, that they saw themselves as readers. And often that's when it happens, is during those middle grades. And so that's why I just love being a part of the middle grade world.
It is. It feels like a really special time in their lives. Celesta, do you want to tell us why you like middle grade? What do you like about it?
When I think honestly about my childhood, I think that in all truthfulness, that in some ways reading fiction saved me. So there were so many times during elementary school when I needed to feel seen, or I needed to feel there were people who understood me. I was in another meeting where an author talked about books as being a life raft, and I think they were for me. So that just never left me. It was something so strong that I remember those middle grade years and the emotions and the feelings of searching for belonging and self-discovery and all that just never left me. It's just very strong. So I just wanted to write stories that could be that for other kids.
Oh, so pretty. I love it. Kristiana, how about you?
I love writing middle grade because you can get away with these super crazy zany plots and you can just be as hilarious as you want to be, and at the same time you can have this real depth and heart that I just, I feel like middle grade just, it takes you by surprise so much. Like I think middle grade books could change the world. So that's probably why I love middle grade so much.
Yes, I agree. Josh?
Well, I found myself in an in-between space where I was writing something that wasn't quite middle grade and wasn't quite young adult. My characters are a little bit older than traditional middle grade and a little younger than traditional young adult, and because they're 13 years old, and over the course of the series, they're going to be 13 and then 14 and then 15. And I really wanted to explore that age. For me, I mean, I feel like who I am today, so much of it was shaped by the experiences that I had in my early teen years, the 12, 13, 14, 15, and the morals that I've developed and the beliefs that I hold. I mean, obviously things change over time, but I have very vivid memories of those years in my life, and I feel so connected to that. As you can see, I still have a lot of comic books, and I always was into these fantastic worlds and these sort of like Lucas Spielberg kind of thing, which I feel really translates well to middle grade as well. And it's that age, and just as Kristiana was saying, the fantastic stories that you can tell, and the ability of the audience to sort of suspend disbelief and just be like, yeah, I'm gonna go down. I like this story. I'm gonna go down this road, and I'm willing to explore this idea. That I think that's what appeals to me with that genre. With that.
That's awesome. We're really great, aren't we? Middle grade. I
Absolutely.
mean, like pat ourselves on the back. We're great. So good news. I got a little message that said that we can go over our 40 minutes. So no more like pressure about how long your answers are. Okay. If I was like, let's go, don't worry about that anymore. So take your time. So this goes into our middle grade. We write middle grade. We love middle grade. Who's your ideal reader? Describe them to me. Let's start with Josh.
Oh no. Well, I mean, I think anyone who's into the supernatural, mystery, kind of paranormal type stuff and adventures. I always say I like to compare. I wish I could compare my books to like the Marvel movies, which are aimed at kids, but really adults love them too. And I wrote the book that I still wanted to read even as an adult. A lot of twists and turns, really fast paced, a lot of surprises. So I think I wrote it for the kids that are in that in-between age where they've moved past maybe the themes that are most prevalent in the early middle grade books, and they're not quite ready for the some of the YA drama that you can get in that area. And I just wanted, people that are interested in a really exciting story, that are developing their sense of who they are and what they believe in, what they think is, understanding the right thing to do, and just wanted an adventure. And so I wrote it, I guess, probably for 13-year-old me in a lot of ways.
That's cool. Yeah, I think like middle grade is having a huge moment, not just in books, but in TV and movies right now. We're seeing it with Stranger Things. We're seeing that. I saw the School of Good and Evil, that book that just got announced today is turning into a movie. So I do think like seeing our 10 to 12-year-old, 8 to 12-year-old readers are going to be a more universal thing. And I think that's really cool. Kristiana, who's your ideal reader?
My ideal reader is Whovians. Anyone who loves Doctor Who.
Okay.
Ghost stories, especially if you like Lockwood and Co. And obviously anyone who likes fantasy, but just especially anyone who really likes to laugh during their stories, definitely. So
Wonderful. I love that. Cheryl, how about you? Who's your ideal reader?
Well, I was thinking about that, and my ideal reader, first of all, would be one who would finish a middle grade novel and say, is there another one? Because those would be my readers.
Yeah.
But also, as far as A Boy Called Preacher, someone who would really just fall in love with characters, and really just any book that they read, that they would fall in love with the characters, that they would learn along with the characters in that character arc as the character changes from the beginning of the book to the end, that they would learn along with them. And in the case of Preacher, that readers would believe that and discover that they can do a lot more than they thought they could do. And that adversity doesn't always have to bring failure, but it can bring courage and it can bring strength. And so that would be my ideal reader.
Very cool. I love that. Celesta.
My ideal reader, I always say that my book, The Elephant's Girl, is for boys and girls and elephants. It's for anybody, it's for anybody who wants an adventure and a good friendship story. It's something that would appeal to readers who like Catherine Applegate's One and Only Ivan, or her book that just came out, The One and Only Bob. Any readers out there who like Jennifer Holm, just whimsical with a little bit of fact and, you know, facts about science or animals mixed in with some fantasy. It's for anybody who wants a good story about belonging and friendship and hope and finding family.
Beautiful. I love that. Okay, so you all did a whole bunch of research. Some had different kinds of research, more realistic and some more fantastical. Tell us about some of the research you did that you found was really interesting. I myself read a 700-page submarine manual, so not as interesting as it sounds. But Cheryl, how about you? Do you want to go first? What's something interesting that you learned in your research?
Well, I loved reading about World War II and the war effort and how everyone in the country pulled together and everyone had a part, whether they were collecting tin or they were using their little coupons and getting one pair of shoes per year, planting victory gardens to help with the food supply. Everyone was doing their part. And one thing that my dad did, and this is one of the stories he told me, as he would turn jackrabbits into the general store. And the government was calling for jackrabbits because the country was sending most of the beef overseas. And so they would collect the jackrabbits. The people in the communities would eat the meat as another source of protein, since beef was scarce here. And then they would send the pelts to the government. The government would use the fur to make fur-lined gloves for our soldiers overseas in Europe. And they would also render the pelts down, and they would get oil that was under the skin. And the oil was used for glycerin, to make glycerin, and glycerin was used to make nitroglycerin. So the boys were all excited. Preacher and Earl Floyd, when they heard about this, they were extremely excited. I don't know if you can see this or not.
Oh, yeah, very
But Uncle Sam is saying, turn your rabbits in, 50 cents each. And so they felt like they were helping the war effort by turning jackrabbits in. And they also made 50 cents, and they got one shell to go get another one. They had to be a really good shot.
Oh,
That's a true, I mean, that was truly going on. That's exactly what my dad did to earn extra money in the early 1940s.
Ah, that's so cool.
So it was fun to incorporate that.
Yeah, that is cool. And I really like the coming together. That's really, you need that when times are tough.
The country came together in times of trials.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Kristiana, what kind of research? Sneezing? Sneezing
Well,
research?
how do you research sneezing a storm cloud? Well, actually, I did have to do a bit of research into like lightning burns and, you know, what happens when someone gets struck by lightning, because there's an incident, it's called The Incident in the story, where someone does get struck by lightning and it's not very good. So I had to do a lot of research into that, and I found out that 24,000 people die a year from being struck by lightning, and 240,000 get struck by lightning but don't die. So, and then lightning scars are actually really, really pretty. Like if you've seen them when they're all healed up, they're gorgeous, and they're called Lichtenberg figures. So,
ooh, I think that's really cool. I love that. All right, Josh, what kind of research?
Well, so growing up in New England and near Salem, I thought I knew everything there was to know about the Salem witch trials. Learned about it in school, and when I started researching it for this book, I quickly learned that I didn't know anything, and the things that I thought I knew were wrong. starting with the fact that the Salem witch trials didn't happen in Salem. They happened in a town that is now called Danvers, Massachusetts, and at the time was part of Salem, but no longer is. And I just thought that was such an interesting fact, that there is this sort of secret history that, Salem got all of the tourists, but the real incident happened somewhere else. And as I was developing my story, that was kind of the central question that came up, which is, what if you were a kid growing up in a town that had this secret history and you were discovering it, and then you discovered that you were connected to it in some way that was really relevant to the things that were happening to you right now. And so that's where I sort of took that element and ran with it. And I also learned a lot about the accused during the witch trials, sort of what happened. And I discovered that there wasn't a whole lot about what led up to it and what happened after. And that became an element of the story as well, which is that there's what you learn in the history books, and then there's the everyday people and everyday events that are affected by it in ways that aren't really reflected in the books, that became a big part of my story as well.
Very cool. So the kids your main characters are learning about it at the same time kind of the reader is?
Yes, they're uncovering this secret past in their town. And they're on these two different tracks. So Abby is being trained in the ways of witchcraft by this mysterious stranger that has arrived in town. And Robbie is investigating sort of goings on that happened 200-300 years ago and how it might be related to these things that Abby's learning. And then their stories cross over, and all of the things that happened in the past sort of spill over into the present in unusual and hopefully surprising ways.
I like that. Celesta.
I did a lot of research about elephants, of course, but then in addition, I needed to learn about elephants in zoos. I already had some ideas about that. I have some experience having worked in a zoo when I was in high school a little bit, but I needed to know really specifically. So Shannon, I did like you, and I got the Association of Zoos and Aquariums manual, and I read 80 pages about the protocols for caring for elephants in zoos if you want to be an accredited zoo, what they have to do. And I also watched hours of live elephant cams at elephant sanctuaries and at accredited zoos. I watched documentaries about elephants, and I spent a lot of time crying at my keyboard, just sobbing, watching about elephants and what's going on with them in our world. And I also researched about elephant communication, because that becomes a very a magical aspect of the story, but I wanted it to be kind of grounded and begin in fact. So in elephant communication, I learned from reading the work of elephant conservationists and scientists that elephants have several different ways they communicate, and some of which we can't hear. They have infrasonic rumblings that our ears cannot detect, but a lot of scientists who've been around the elephants for long enough, if they really pay attention, they can feel a whomping feeling against the side of their head. And that's that subsonic rumble from the elephants. And it's the same frequency, pretty close to the frequency of the earth. And so it can travel through the earth, and the elephants can feel it in their feet. And it's a way that they can communicate with each other from long distances. And it's a way that some researchers believe that elephants know what's going on with other elephant herds far away from them. Which can even contribute to the conflict between humans and elephants, because elephants may even recognize what's going on with humans. So that was really interesting, and I loved it, and it changed me completely, and I've become such an advocate for elephant conservation because of it. And I learned about elephant sanctuaries, and I also learned a lot about tornadoes. I have been in a few, not actually in the funnel, but I have survived several tornadoes in my life. And but I needed to research more specifically what happens in an EF5, which is the one that my character survives.
Very cool. Oh, wow. That sounds like a lot of research in yours.
It was a lot of fun, but I think it made writing the character of the elephant so much more rich.
Very cool. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so I have a job for the audience, and that is, if you have a question, you can go ahead and type it in. While you're doing that, I'm going to have the panelists go through and tell us what they are working on and how you can find them on social media, their websites, that kind of stuff. But I do hope you have some questions that we can ask, because that's what's happening next. Okay? So, Kristiana, huh?
No pressure, anyone.
No pressure, but make sure it's a really good question. No, you can ask individually questions if you have a specific question, or you can open it up to everybody. But just go ahead and type it into the chat box and I will ask that. But while you're doing that, Kristiana, where can people find you and what are you working on next?
So I am working on the second book of the Stormwatch Diaries, which is the sequel to Legend of the Storm Sneezer, and it is so much fun and crazy imagination overload. It's very fun to edit. So I'm hoping to have that done soon because it kind of hurts my brain too. You can find me at kristianasquill.com and on Instagram and Twitter at kristianasquill.
Very cool. Celesta, how about you? Where are you and what are you working on now?
Right now, I'm working on my second book, which is, right now it's called Tips for Magicians. And it's a story of a young boy who moves from Virginia to the southern Utah desert near all of Zion National Park and a lot of the national parks in the Mojave Desert. And he goes to live in an art village with his aunt and finds out about a magical art contest, that the town has this legend that there is a muse that lives in the canyon who grants wishes to the person who wins the contest every year. So he has something special he wants to wish for. He makes some friends and he determines that he's going to win this art contest. So that's what I'm working on now, and that should be coming out in summer of 2021. And then as far as where you can find me, my website is celestarimington.com. I love to do virtual visits with book clubs and to do author visits with schools, elementary school classes, and tell them about being an author and about my book and answer their questions about writing, because that's what happened to me in 4th grade. An author visited and it made all the difference to me. So I love to do that. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, and that's all at my website, celestarimington.com.
Nice, cool. All right, Josh, what are you working on and how can they find you?
I'm working on the sequel to The Witches of Willow Cove, which as of yesterday officially has a title. It's The Curse of Willow Cove. It's book 2 in the trilogy. Everyone's a little bit older, a little bit wiser. It starts on Abby's 14th birthday, and they are once again uncovering something that happened long ago. The first book is a standalone story, but there's a slight one little thread that is teased at the end of in the epilogue, and that's picked up in the second book, and away we go there. And the main antagonist in the second book is vampires. So if you like vampires, that's where we're going. So witches versus vampires. And you can find me, my website is willowcove.com, and I'm on all of the social media. I'm just at Josh Who Writes.
Great. Cheryl, how about you? What are you working on now and how can they find you?
All right. My work in progress is All Roads Home, which is the sequel to A Boy Called Preacher. And chapter 1, right off the bat, we introduce Norma Gale. And she's 12 years old, and she's actually living with the tractor mechanic. He is her uncle, and her aunt and uncle there. And in All Roads Home, Preacher is on the hunt. I mean, he's hoping to find his dad and to encourage him to come home. But the 3 children, Preacher, Earl Floyd, and Norma Gale, become involved in trying to find homes for a small number of children who, after the end of the orphan train movement in 1939, there were a few children who were never placed and are in an orphanage in Kansas. And so they embark on an adventure to try to find families for them.
Ooh,
So-
that sounds very adventurous.
So there's kind of a few themes going through there, but
Very cool. And where can they find you on social media?
CherylSherman.com. I see my name there. It says Stan Cheryl Sherman. Stan Sherman is the illustrator, by the way, for my book, my husband. But CherylSherman.com, and I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and can be found by putting my name in.
Very cool. Okay. Oh, we got lots of questions, guys, and now I'm getting them all mixed up. Okay, so let's try to do these short and sweet. So the first one was, how long did it take you from when you started writing it to publication? Kristiana, why don't you start? How long did it take you to get your book written to publication?
9 years.
9 years.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. Cheryl, how about you?
I started writing A Boy Called Preacher in 2009.
Oh, awesome.
2009. Josh.
Yeah, I'm gonna follow that. Also, about 10 years for mine. I wrote it 3 different times before I found the right voice for it.
And people have follow-up questions about that. I'll come back to you. Celesta, how long did it take you?
From the time I got the idea for The Elephant's Girl and really decided I was going to write it, I think it's been about 6 years. And like Josh, I wrote several versions. There were several different iterations of this story before I finally got it published.
Yeah, I think people think like we just, hey, I'm gonna write a book, and then it's like once you write the book, they tend to think that, okay, that's the hard part. And no, that's kind of like the easy part. Not easy, but like the most in control for us. But yeah, it takes a while. So yeah, 6 to 10 years it took everybody. Okay, here's another quick hot seat question. If you could co-write a book with someone, who would it be? Celesta, let's start on your side.
I don't even have to think about that. Kate DiCamillo.
Oh, perfect. Yes, that would pair up so well. Josh, how about you?
Victoria Schwab, who wrote City of Ghosts and Tunnel of Bones. I love her writing. I love her young adult writing and her middle grade, and that would be a dream to
Very cool. Yeah. Okay, so you guys are kind of ready for this question, I guess. Cheryl, how about you? Who would you co-write with?
I would say Kristen Hanna.
Mm.
I just love her work. I am actually co-writing a book right now with my husband. It's a nonfiction parenting book. So I'm in that process right now. So if Kristen Hanna contacts me, I probably don't have time at the moment. So.
Well, I feel like your husband would be honored that would
Yeah.
happen, right? That you picked him over her. Okay, Kristiana, how about you? Who would you co-author with?
I would co-author with Jonathan Stroud. I think we would have a fun time with dialogue and banter and spooky scenes, and I would get to pretend to be British, which would be awesome.
Very cool. You guys, that was way too easy. I feel like you didn't need to think about that at all. Okay, what is the biggest challenge when writing middle grade? What do you think? Kristiana? I'm just going like on the line. Is it the same line for you guys?
I think at least 2 of you can appreciate this word count. Keeping the word count as short as possible when you have so much story to tell.
So I'm opposite that, but Cheryl, how about you?
Well, for me, it was writing a book about 2 boys. But growing up with 3 younger brothers, raising 4 sons, I pretty much know boys.
Yeah.
However, it was still hard. And I love writing dialogue. And there were times that I would write a scene and I would ask my husband, he was my consultant, and I would say, would you read this dialogue? And what do you think? And he would say, honey, a boy would never say it like that. So I did have a consultant, and that was helpful, but probably just making sure that I was just really in that voice of those 12-year-old boys and the banter. And I loved writing that.
Very cool. I like that. Josh, biggest challenge?
So many challenges. I think part of it is finding the voice so that the characters feel authentically of the age, but also are relatable to readers that are a little bit younger and a little bit older. And then also in my book in particular, we go to some semi-dark places and just making sure that it's appropriate for someone that might be reading it in 3rd or 4th grade, as well as someone that might be reading it in 9th or 10th grade.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, I think, across the board, there's such a big gap between 8 and 12. And in our case, 10 to 14 is a big gap too. So yeah. Celesta, biggest challenge?
I think I can just echo what everyone else said. I agree with all of it. One thing that came to my mind was about theme, because sometimes their themes arise. I don't ever start a story with a theme. I just start with characters and give them backstories and give them motivation, but then theme arises from it. And sometimes the theme can be a little heavy for middle grade, but middle grade kids deal with these themes in their life. They deal with these challenges themselves. And so finding a way to blend the appropriate way to talk about it, the wording, the correct language and voice, and addressing themes in a way that doesn't become too heavy, but in my book, it should leave on a hopeful note. So to me, I think that it's a challenge, but it's one I love.
Yeah.
Challenges are responsibility.
It's the meat and potatoes. That's why we're here, right? Kristiana, it says, I noticed you have a 13-year-old protagonist like Josh. Did you experience any of the pushback that he did for having a character that age?
Actually, no, not really. My publisher really liked the age group. They were fine. They were actually just starting to go into middle grade. So they were like, older protagonists, that's fine. And my other characters are actually 14, 15, and 17. So they're already kind of pushing the upper middle grade there and, kind of more YA. But I think Rose has a very young, very hopeful voice. So she works well, even if she's a little bit older of a character.
Yeah, okay. This one said, sorry if this was addressed. I had to tune out for a second. But Josh, you mentioned that your first draft was 150,000 words. Is there anything you cut that you wish was still in there or that you plan to use elsewhere?
There was a lot of interpersonal stuff between some of the characters. There's one particular subplot that was excised entirely about Amethyst, who is my favorite character to write. But that's making its way into book 2, so that's okay. The thing that killed me is that there's a lot of the sort of connective tissue between chapters, the like kids being kids, hanging out kind of stuff that wasn't core to the story kind of was cut out. And then one of the reviews that I read, and I know you're not supposed to read your own reviews, but one of the reviews was like, I wish there was more of this stuff in it. And I was like, there was more of that. It's gone now, but.
When it was this big, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then you say, just like comment, wait till book 2. No, don't comment on reviews.
I know, don't comment.
Okay, this is for everybody. When you begin working on a book, do you know the end from the beginning, or does it kind of evolve? Cheryl, can I start with you? Do you know the end?
I always start with the end.
Okay, easy.
Where do I want to be? Where do I want my character to be? What do I want my character to learn from the beginning to the end? And so I do. I mean, right now with All Roads Home, my last 2 chapters are written, and I'm sure, I will be revising, of course, but they're written, and I'm working on the middle.
Very cool. Kristiana?
I start with the plot twist. Once I figure out the book's plot twist, it usually happens towards, a little after the middle, not quite the end. Once I know what the plot twist is, I build the entire story around that.
Very cool. Josh?
I usually think I know what the ending is, and then I'm usually wrong. But I like to have a sense of where I'm going, and then a pretty clear path for the chapter to chapter and a half of that it's ahead of me, and then it's like driving on a highway at night. Like I can see just enough to know where I'm going, but usually I don't know what's around the bend, except for certain sort of tent pole moments that I know are going to happen, but I don't know exactly when they're going to happen in the story. And then I just I usually ask myself, what's the most exciting thing that could happen right now? And then I try to write to that.
I do that too. Okay, Celesta, how about you?
So far, I start with my ending, like Cheryl. I usually have the resolution scene in my head when I begin, knowing what's going to happen with the characters and what they will have discovered about themselves. And so it's got a little bit of the plot twist as well, like Kristiana said, because I know where they're going to end, and then I back it up from there and I figure out where they need to come from in order to get to that point.
You guys are also responsible. Very impressive. I'm very impressed. I'm going to ask one more. Sorry if you asked me a question and you're not next on the list, but I'm going to ask the question and then we're going to do the giveaway. Does that sound good, participants? Okay. Last question. If your book went to the big screen, do you think it would be better as a TV show or a movie? Let's start with Celesta.
I definitely think it would be better as a movie. In fact, I saw it as a movie in my head as I was writing it. So let's hope someday.
Yeah. Josh?
I am desperately hoping that Netflix or Disney Plus comes knocking, for sure. I've got a 10-episode arc all worked out.
I had a feeling you were going to go for the longer one. Cheryl, how about you?
I think movie, probably incorporating All Roads Home, the entire thing, but yeah, I can see it. And I mean, I see what I write in my head as a movie, so I would have to say movie.
Very cool. Yeah, me too. Kristiana?
Movie, but it would have to be animated, preferably by Pixar.
Nice.
Ooh, very cool. Oh, you've got it all planned out too. I love that. All right, and I apologize. There's some lovely comments and questions in here. Okay, so this is how it's gonna work. I'm not even sure I'm gonna do this right. So, okay, get ready to type. So, the first book we are going to do a giveaway for is Celesta. And Celesta's husband owns something on their property that is a hobby. Yes. All right, Hilton's. Hilton's, could you please private message me your address so that we can get that out to you? And congratulations. All right, the next one, Kristiana, to give away Legend of the Storm Sneezer. She talked about a scar that you can get that occurs in her book. How does that happen? How does that scar happen? Yes, call Red 2. Okay, call Red 2. Could you DM me your address so we can get Legend of the Storm Sneezer to you? All right, next one, Cheryl. Ooh, this was like the only question I could think in my head for all of you. So I apologize if I was like scattered. Anyway, Cheryl, okay, to win A Boy Called Preacher, how much money would the government give you for a rabbit pelt? Do you know? Yes, April. Okay, April, DM me. So where it says 2 and it says everyone, you can just pick Shannon De Les Key if you don't want everyone to know your name or your address, which of course you wouldn't want everyone to know. So okay, April won that one. And then to win a copy of Witches of Willow Cove, Josh mentioned another town besides Salem. What was it? Yes. Mindy, nicely done. Mindy, could you DM me your address? Awesome. You did great. Congratulations. You were all paying attention. Congratulations, debuts. So proud of you and happy that we got to share this with you. Anyone need to say anything?
I just want to make sure everyone knows that Mary Underwater by Shannon De Les Key is a fantastic novel, and I want you all to go out and buy it.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. This was great.
So much.
I'm so
Thank
happy you were here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now I have to do that awkward thing where I just like shut everyone down, and I apologize for that if it's weird, but that's what's gonna happen. So
Bye.
Bye.
Thank